Requiem, meanwhile, had generated a large, comfy red sofa by the fire and was sipping his usual green tea and watching the squabble with amusement. "Freya!" he called enthusiastically. "I'm glad you could join the party. Pull up a chair and watch this. It's great fun. Cup of jar?" Freya gave her trademark disapproving look and turned to Gio and Urasil. "How did you know we were here?" asked Urasil in a bewildered tone. "More importantly, you do realise that you're in West Gate and you're an East Gate dweller," quipped Gio. Freya folded her arms. "It's not difficult, is it? The portcullis to Westgate is a shambles, and there were people scattering all about crying, 'Fix the gate!' and 'Hide the pies!' Seriously, who else would destroy the gate, and who else would they be that worried about that they seriously feared for their culinary stock? With all the mayhem, do you think I was even noticed?" "Fair point," said Gio. "Yes, very good," finished Urasil. Seeing that they had succumbed to Freya's superior logic, Requiem leapt out of the chair, grabbed some fire and hurled it at the stone staircase, making it beat a hasty retreat. He then converted 3 chairs at the far end of the room and sent them hurtling down the alleyways between the bookcases until each of his friends had been knocked into a chair and come to a halt around the fireplace with him. Hot chocolate appeared in front of Freya, coffee for Urasil, and a pie for Gio. "Thank you very much," came the muffled voice of Gio as he tucked in. "You're welcome." Leaning forwards, Requiem adopted a serious tone. "I need to tell you all something, and I want your honest opinion afterwards." He proceeded to recount his talk with Talis in minute detail. Only when he had finished did he lean back and look as if a weight had been lifted. "So, tell me I'm crazy. Someone, please. I shouldn't be taken in by such stuff, right? It's like they took gullible out of the dictionary, etc., etc." Requiem got up and made to leave, hoping to escape before anyone could speak. "Thanks. I'm glad we had this chat. I don't think I'll let this bother me." Urasil was staring into space in deep thought as he raised his finger and called out to Requiem. "Hang on a minute. I wouldn't discount these events so easily. I happen to believe that what the book told me, at least, was true. I've been frantically trying to piece together what I can find on that book since we've returned." "Urasil may have a point," Gio said quietly as he gazed into the fire. What it was saying about the noodle recipe seemed plausible. Equally, Talis did say he had got it from an adventurer who had been told by the book about Talis and where to find him. It must have even warned him about Romulus and Remus, for this guy to be packing a rocket launcher. I mean, that's not a normal trekking essential, is it? "Damn," said Requiem sharply. He crashed back into his chair and rubbed his brow, downcast. "What do you think, Freya? Not that you read it, of course." Freya was very quiet. Too quiet for Freya. Finally, she broke her silence and added the final blow. "I think that book does exactly what Talis said, although what it's told me I'll tell no one." With those chilling words, she flung out her arm as she stood side on to the fire. The flames were doused with a stone tablet just as the Book of Morpheus and Minerva slid to a halt on top of it. No one spoke for a very long time. They couldn't believe the book was in front of them. The book that could change anyone's life forever, be it for better or worse. "That was a sharp bit of work to get the book in the chaos of the library," said an impressed Gio before tucking back into the pie. "But you said you didn't want to read it, so why'd you do it?" "I'm only human, kinda. The temptation was too much and the opportunity was there. I can't believe I actually did it. I mean, what I did was theft, and that is so unlike me. This is why I can believe what the book says." Urasil gulped. "So, what shall we do?" Requiem broke the silence. "I'm not reading it again. I want to know if this fifth gate exists, and I want to know the truth behind it, But I won't use that. There has to be another way. If the brief chapter he had read was anything to go by, Requiem knew the book would at least tell him where the fifth gate was. But he wouldn't be able to read it without reading other things he did not want to know. Always the one who could be depended upon to give a balanced answer in a tight spot, Gyo gave his assessment. We can still get the book to help us without you reading it. It's obvious from what Talis said that it's futile looking for information on the fifth gate here. But I bet there is a library that will have information on it. Leaning back in his chair, Gyo turned his head to Urasil and added suggestively, "Right, Urasil?" In a burst of excitement, Urasil pointed and waved his finger frantically at the book. Yes, yes, the Inquisitor's library, the ultimate vault of knowledge. If it's known, it's there. That has always been said. It's the pursuit of many to find this place. I'm sure we'll find answers there, sure of it. Pausing to see if Urasil was actually going to burst, Gyo leaned forwards and continued. I suggest that we let Urasil read the book. Figure out how to get to the Inquisitor's library. Go there. Do some research on the fifth gate and the history of the four gates. Then decide our next move. What do we think? Requiem balanced his need to know against the welfare of his friends. He knew that ultimately this was not a selfish cause. No search for truth could ever be. But he couldn't do it on his own. As ever, when it comes down to it, you speak sense. I'm game. Anyone else? Urasil answered before Requiem could draw another breath. It's a rhetorical question for me. You know I'm going, with or without you. Thank you for that truly heartwarming reply, smiled Requiem. Gyo? Freya? As it's my plan, I think they'd call it hypocritical if I didn't go along. And I ain't no hippocritic, replied Gyo jovially. Requiem turned to look at Freya. Something was holding her back. He wasn't sure why she wasn't her usual confident self, but knew that whatever the book had told her must have been just as worrying as what it had told him. Feeling Requiem's gaze on her, Freya said warmly, Of course I'll go. At least one responsible adult needs to be on this trip. Turning to Urasil with her usual fire, she added, So why don't you read on and tell us where we're going already? Pleased and relieved, Requiem sat back in the chair whilst Urasil picked up the book gleefully. Just as I thought. Yes, I see, muttered Urasil out loud as he tapped his chin. Much time passed, and the group slumped lower and lower into their chairs as they slowly started to drift away, until Urasil slammed the book shut triumphantly. Right, seems simple enough. We have to find... Urasil stopped speaking, and a look of grave concern appeared on his face. Before I go any further, I want to share my concerns with you. Urasil looked each of them in the eye as he spoke. What we witnessed at Talis's was far beyond what a normal vampire can produce. They are physically strong, yes, and have limited abilities of conversion, allowing for some cheap parlour tricks. Some can even fly. But make live stone beasts? Dogs the size of elephants? Build a palace that defies belief? These are things that only those in the ivory tower can do, if at all. Something is not as we are led to believe. He's either much more than a vampire, or he has help, powerful help. Urasil paused as everyone digested the thought that a short while ago they were in the presence of an aggressive entity that rivaled the power of those that resided over their world. Gyo gulped as the severity of the situation he had been in, the situation he had put everyone in with his moment of weakness with Libertina, dawned on him. Urasil continued. There are a number of facts that, when put together, are deeply worrying. He told Requiem about the fifth gate. He let me read the book of Morpheus and Minerva, which told me about the Inquisitor's library, the only place that will have information on this place. He could have killed us all, but let us escape. He let Freya leave with the book. This could be a very well-planned and nasty trap. Freya quickly dismissed the thought. Why would anyone want to go to such lengths, even for the likes of Requiem? No offence. Who would want to trap him, and why? He's never singled anyone out. Yes, he's into mass destruction, but he's never done anything to actually hurt anyone. Well, nothing he hasn't reversed and wiped all memory of. Surely, if you are the vindictive type, and you have the power of Talis, why not just do away with him there and then? Why send us to this Inquisitor in the Fifth Gate? All good points, said Gio. We could avoid playing into their hands and do nothing. However, if this is an act of aggression, the instigators of this charade could manifest their designs in a more powerful way, and perhaps affect the many of the four gates instead of the few of us. Even worse, it could extend to the outside world. Requiem stood up. What is more important is that if we do nothing, then we may never know, and that just isn't human, right? Right, shouted Uracil with renewed vigour, his thirst for knowledge taking firm priority over fear of death. I'm still with you, Requiem. After all, who's going to keep you on the straight and narrow if I'm not there? Reassured Gio. True enough, replied Requiem. He turned to Freya. What do you say? You up for an adventure that could lead to our end? Freya's face adopted the same concerned and saddened look she had worn since returning from Talis's. It was clear that she was deeply worried about something. However, she was not the type to let a little mortal peril put her off. This was something else, but no one was going to share Freya's troubles. At least, not yet. Freya let the tension build until jovially dispersing it. Of course I'm still in. Someone needs to keep Gio and Uracil on the straight and narrow in order to keep you on it. Excellent, said Requiem, gleefully rubbing his hands. Freya took charge. Before we go another step down this twisted road, I'm getting some supplies. If mortal danger wants to face us, it's going to have to earn our blood. Uracil quivered. Okay, you go, and I'll continue studying the book until you return. It's best I commit as much to memory as possible. Freya grabbed the back of Uracil's cloak as she proceeded up the stone stairs that had silently descended whilst they were talking, as if they knew now was the time to let everyone out. Not so fast, feeble one. I had to come to Westgate. Now it's your turn to go to Eastgate. Gio bent down as if to whisper to Uracil, but spoke so that Requiem could hear. Don't worry. They'll barely notice you. They'll be more concerned with barricading themselves away from Requiem and hiding all the chocolate desserts from me. Sweet fudge cake. This brought some comfort to Uracil. Even though he represented everything that Eastgate dwellers were opposed to, they would be far more concerned that Requiem would destroy years of research. They may even be genuinely fearful for their desserts, as Eastgate was famed for its high-calorie, highly tasty confectionery, which was right up Gio's street, even more so now that he hadn't eaten all the pies of Westgate. The light outside was bright, making everyone squint as they made their way gingerly out of the splintered slit that Requiem had made in the main gate. Gio sucked himself in this time. He did not want a reenactment of his grand entrance. Really, Uracil scoffed as he looked back at the portcullis. You could have been gentler with such a historic building. Requiem took note of his friend's words, as he knew what the great castle meant to Uracil. Turning to the gate and portcullis as they left, one hand shielding his eyes from the sun to catch its energising rays, Requiem pointed and twisted his other hand at the gate. The splintered crack slammed shut whilst the metal braces rolled back across the doors, nails pounding back into the wood as they did so. Within no time at all, the gate was its impenetrable self once more. Although Gio was once again a contorted wreck, and even Freya was trying to find her happy place with her hands over her ears due to the earth-shattering noise of twisting metal and cracking wood. Uracil had simply looked faint throughout the process, but now the portcullis was as it should be, colour flowed back into his body as he smiled on. The man that had been so rude to Requiem and Gyo earlier called out from the ramparts. "Congratulations, Grand Master Urasil. I see you've called these undesirables to order." Requiem looked at Urasil. "What is all this Grand Master nonsense?" he asked in disbelief. Urasil stood tall and proud. "You and Kyo may belittle me, but I am very high in the Westgate rankings. I have done wonders for my brethren, and thus such an illustrious title has been bestowed upon me." Gyo slapped Urasil on his back and laughed heartily. "That's why they look at you with such disdain whenever you sneeze, is it?" Urasil retorted. "Everyone has their faults. At least I'm not counted as an undesirable." Turning back to the portcullis, Requiem muttered. "Undesirable, yes, that reminds me." With a flick of his wrist, he turned the grand wooden gate pink and the iron of the portcullis green. "None of this behaviour in Eastgate, if you please," Freya said sternly before turning on her heels and continuing across the courtyard to the wall of water that was Eastgate. As the rest of the group followed, the Gothic Westgate castle turned pink and burst out in bright yellow polka dots. The vines lining the walls grew prolifically and ran riot. Distant screams of panic could be heard from inside the walls as vines grabbed people, and the polka dot infection spread to anyone that touched the walls, instantly turning them pink with yellow dots. Just as the Westgate dwellers thought it couldn't get any worse, all the pies took flight and littered the floor. Most made a sludgy brown mess on the beautiful white marble courtyard, but a few landed in Gyo's arms. Smiling, Gyo sniffed the cradled pies before devouring them. Freya looked to the sky for strength as they reached the water wall. She sighed in the knowledge that some equally comedic fate no doubt awaited her own home.